So now after about 15 minutes, give or take with the hair dry, the puddles have pretty much dried. I also added salt in some of the thickest areas, and if I zoom in here, you can see how it gives it kind of a mottled effect where the salt was. And I love texture, so I'll do everything I can to add more. Given the color palette I used and the fact that it's still kind of light, I'm going to go ahead and go with a cool color background for the most part, and I'm going to approach this by layering, adding rubber cement designs and layering more color on top of that, almost like a batik project. So the first color I'm going to add over the blue just to give it a little bit more complete feel to it. Little bit of green and a lot of water. Just a whole lot of water. I'm going to create a wash. I'm going to be very light with my brush, very heavy with the water, because you see these wonderful dry lines. I don't want to get rid of those. So I'm going to be very light with the brush as I apply my green layer. I'm going to stop around the outline of my head. Maybe bleed it over just a little bit, but not too much. Now, some people like to put tape around the edges. I like a very rough and organic edge to my painting, so I opt out of it. I would check with your teacher and see what she prefers. Here I'm going to differentiate a little bit between the face. And there's that rubber cement pushing the watercolor away, doing what it's supposed to be doing. Tons of water. Notice how I'm putting water down before I even put down the paint. And I think I'm just going to let that fade off into nothingness over here. Maybe add a little bit back here because it looks like I've neglected behind the head over here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is add a little bit more blue, a little bit of salt, and I'm going to go back to the hairdryer and voila! Well, here's the areas that I used salt on. It's a little bit more dramatic than last time. With salt, you just have to kind of keep an open mind and get what you get. I have a thought that if you have freckles on your face, this might be a technique worth mastering. You could get a very, very lively effect. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my rubber cement and I'm going to get to work putting polka dots in my background. I'm just going to put them all the way across my face too, and I'm going to do a light wash so that kind of almost maybe shows through when I start doing my face. Kind of have to keep track of where the polka dots are because I can't really see my rubber cement. Now this is the advantage of Misket, is it dries bright orange, so you always know where it ended up on your piece. Now that I've blasted the rubber cement with the hairdryer for a few minutes and it's dry, I'm going to go over it with my next color now. I'm thinking since I'm glazing, I'm going to try some yellow now. So here I go, prepping the yellow, lots of color. Let's see how this turns out. Okay, I'm liking it so far. I might do, instead of stroking the yellow on or brushing it on, I'm just going to kind of dab it on. So like I said before, I really, really like all of these texture effects that I'm getting. And if I start going over it and over it with brush strokes, I'm just going to lose all of my textures. Now, I'm going to take this yellow all the way over onto my face. And we'll start working the background in with the subject. Now it's okay if I look a little bit yellow right now because I'm going to be layering more colors on top of this as well, and it's not going to look like I have jaundice when I'm done. It's all part of the process. Alright, that only took about 2 or 3 minutes to dry by hairdryer. All I'm going to do is, with my thumb, I'm going to rub the rubber cement back off my piece so I can go ahead and start working on the face. Alright, now as you can see without the rubber cement on, it looks quite different. I kind of like this look a little bit. It's almost half finished, bright, high-key look, but we're going to keep going. And I'm going to do a little bit more wet on wet. Up to this point we've been glazing in layers and we've been using some colors that maybe wouldn't mix normally if it were wet on wet, like purple and yellow, but whenever you allow the layers to dry and then work a little bit at a time, it works. But now we're going to keep our colors wet. We're going to work a little bit more carefully, a little bit more delicately on the face. And the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to bring it back in to skin tone just a little bit. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and water down a little bit of orange. Like I said, I have a blue-based skin tint, so I add just a tiny bit of blue in there, a little bit of red. And I'm still going to be glazing, but that looks like a good start there. I'm going to take another look at my face in the mirror, note where my highlight points are, forehead, cheek, nose, hair. I'm going to go back here and get to work. Now as I work, I want to be very, very careful to be light with my brush. And I want to make sure that any really neat areas of white, I don't really want to compromise. So I want to keep the very cool areas, like right here, this hair texture, and maybe up here, I want to keep that alone. So I'm going to work on adding in a very light glazed layer of skin color. Alright, that one's done. I'm going to start going in and adding some rose tones. Certain parts of my face. Let's go back to the mirror. I'm seeing around this area of my face, around this area, within the eyes and around the nose, it's a little bit extra red. There's a lot of colors in the face. You just have to slow down, take your time, and pick them all out. So here I'm adding it around the nose, eyes. Notice how watered down this glaze is. I know that if I go overboard with any one color, it will be very, very difficult to go backwards. So I'm going to layer colors up slowly and carefully. I'm going to go ahead and put in some value there where my lips are going to be eventually. A little bit up the side there. I think that's a little bit too much, so I'm going to go in and just blot it out. I'm using my hands. A better way would probably be to have some napkins on hand, or some paper towels rather. Ooh, that's a little bit bright. So I'm going to do, I'm not trying to get rid of it, I'm just going to go back and add straight water to blend it out a little bit. I'm still being very light with my brush. Actually going to bring it back into the hair a little bit. Okay, fabulous.